in hindsight, I probably should have done this video like a couple weeks ago, like for the 4th of July, but I didn't. But this is a topic that like came onto my brain not too long ago about people singing the Star Spangled Banner. And for a song that is so iconic, for Americans at least, why is it also simultaneously a song that seems to be so often just bungled by so many different singers? What is it about this song that just makes it difficult for so many people? Well, first thing, and honestly one of the biggest things, is that this is a very common song in our everyday lexicon, if you will. Even if you're not necessarily American, you do know the Star Spangled Banner, at least like the first few notes of it. You don't know all the words necessarily, and frankly, not all Americans know all the words, but most people know the tune and know the song because it's a very common song for a lot of Americans, and you see it in a lot of American pop culture, and that in and of itself gets exported all over the world. And because the song is so incredibly common and we see it plastered everywhere, sometimes that leads to the misconception that that means the song is easy. Just because something is very common within pop culture, just because you run into a lot, just because you see it everywhere, does not necessarily make it an easy thing to perform. Now, some songs we already know this for. Some songs get infamous by the fact that they are known for being difficult to play. But the Star Spangled Banner is just such a common song that everybody seems to want to try out. And so they try it for themselves and then miserably fail when they find out it's a lot more difficult than they realize. So shifting more into that mindset, why then is the Star Spangled Banner so difficult to perform? Well, first let's address the vocal range of the song. So I've worked with a lot of singers. I've especially worked with a lot of younger student singers at about like middle school to high school range. So I have a significant amount of experience working with very young and untrained singers. And in my experience, a lot of untrained singers have a vocal range of about 5 notes at a minimum, up to maybe about an octave. 5 notes if you really don't sing that much. Maybe if you sing a handful of pop tunes that don't move around all that much, and up to about an octave if maybe you sing more regularly in your free time, but you're not technically trained. Now, while an octave vocal range doesn't really sound like it would be all that much, it's actually a pretty decent vocal range, particularly for an untrained singer, and for someone who only really sings casually. Outside of that range, you're not gonna find a ton of songs that casual singers tend to be attracted to, unless it's like a super specific niche genre, such as more like classical music, or unless it's by a specific performer that's well known for having a crazy big vocal range, such as like Mariah Carey. But a song like the Star Spangled Banner, on the other hand, has a vocal range of about an octave and a half. And that's a pretty big range. So if someone who isn't a well-trained singer attempts to sing the Star Spangled Banner, just even on a casual level, they're going to run into the fact that it's almost guaranteed that it's going to be bigger than the vocal range that they're used to working in. And because the vocal range of the banner is so large, it's almost guaranteed that no matter where you start, it's very likely it's going to go over someone's vocal break. So real quick, what is a vocal break? Without getting too nerdy into details, singers have what's typically referred to as a chest voice and a head voice. Most of the time, people use their chest voice. That's typically what you talk in, and most pop songs, most common songs that are out there where people are very comfortable without any kind of training is they like singing in their chest voice. You also can sing in your head voice. Sometimes with male singers, we also refer to this as their falsetto. It's more of a higher pitched voice, and we call it our head voice because it kind of can feel like it's sitting in your head. Neither of the voices actually sit in your actual chest or your actual head. It's all about kind of this imagined feeling of where this placement is. But when you switch over from your chest voice to your head voice, you can feel a physical shift in where that voice is sort of sitting in your body. So you can get away with singing a lot of songs in your chest voice. You don't have to be a trained singer to sound pretty decent just only using your chest voice. But singing with your voice is very similar to working out your muscles. If you've never worked out before, you shouldn't expect to just be able to pick up 100 pounds on day one. In a similar way with your head voice, just as if you were trying to pick up 100 pounds without any prior training, you're likely either to really hurt yourself or at least stop yourself before you do. That's how a lot of people tend to react when they try to sing with their head voice for the first time. Either they feel that shift in their voice and they pull back from it and their voice just cuts out, or they go for it and that's where the vocal cracks happen. So with such a large range, untrained singers who attempt to sing the Star Spangled Banner are very likely to hit that switch over point at some point during the song. And if they're not ready for it, that's where you get the crazy vocal cracks. But it can get worse from there. So think about, for example, if you were to draw something, right? You were just gonna draw an object. Where are you likely to start drawing it? Probably dead center in the middle of the page, right? In the same way, people tend to take the same approach with singing. If you don't know where to start where it's comfy, right in the middle of your vocal range, right? Except the problem with doing that with the banner is that the third note in is the lowest note in the whole entire song. And then you have to go an octave and a half up from there. And so if you're doing this a cappella, you've got nobody accompanying you, and if you're performing it in front of an audience, as is generally done with the Star Spangled Banner, and you get nervous and you forget little important details like that, it's really easy to make a bad situation 10 times worse. But what if they are a trained singer? Why do even trained singers sometimes still seem to mess up this song? While maybe less technical, there are some more subjective reasons to this. One of the big ones that you often see is that a lot of people like to really do their own stylistic twist on things. Now, there's nothing wrong with doing a stylistic twist on a song. That's part of creative freedom and an artistic interpretation, right? Is you can take something, twist it around with your own little signature take on something and put out a whole different new product. But sometimes certain songs just aren't well suited to particular styles. For example, you're probably not going to do a ballad in a heavy metal style. You might be able to make it work, but there's a lot of ways to do that wrong. But with something like the Star Spangled Banner, since it's a national anthem, there's a lot of implied reverence to the song. And you don't want to have your interpretation coming off as being too flippant. I'm not going to sit here and make any hot takes as to what styles are good or what styles are bad. I don't think it's a strict line. I think there's a lot of gray areas and a lot of areas where people can really push the boundaries of that. But at the same time, I think a lot of people also know a bad version when they hear it. You may not be able to draw an exact perimeter, but you definitely know when something's crossed over that line. And then finally, and this is a little bit more of my own personal pet peeve, is sometimes people take too dang long with the Star Spangled Banner. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't mind the versions where people do a lot of improv and add on their own kind of stuff, you know, a la like Whitney Houston or something like that. I have no problem with people making stylistic choices. However, there is such a thing as going on too long, and a bad version of the Star Spangled Banner will just go on and on and on and just seem to be slower with every single note. My own personal taste, I tend to lean towards what my band teacher in high school always told our band. She hated it when people took forever with the Star Spangled Banner, and so when our band had to perform the banner for any kind of sports game we were participating in, she always kept a nice, strict, swift tempo. And so because of that, our performances were always nice, quick, and concise. Now, somebody can take longer than what we did with our band because we were performing it so often. It just felt like, you know, it wasn't necessary for us to just go on ad infinitum. But at the same time, have you ever sat through a performance of something and just felt like the performer could have picked a little bit faster tempo? Because I know I have. If half of your audience is falling asleep within the first several bars, maybe pick up the tempo a little bit. So don't be fooled by America's national anthem. Just because it is the national anthem doesn't necessarily make it an easy thing to sing or perform. But seriously though, if you actually are performing the banner anytime soon, I wish you the best of luck. And if you're not performing the banner, you're performing something else, I also wish you good luck. But that's all I had for my video today. So of course, if you like this video, you'd like to see more of it, feel free to subscribe to the channel. But otherwise, I'll see you next time. Goodbye. I did my setup here. Do you like it? This is my little bamboo plant here. It's not a real plant, it's my fake one. But I put this up in the corner because guess who is still lazy and hasn't fixed a picture frame yet? That's me. But I like this corner setup. It's very nice. My green chair that I had over here is now over there and doesn't look as nice for a video angle setup. I feel like this apartment is the worst for getting good video angles because it's either completely blank wall or it's up against like, it's too open planning. Like, that's what I'm not liking about this open concept, open house planning, whatever you want to call it here. It's just like you can see across everything, and that's fine for some things, but it's horrible for finding a good place to stop and take a video. But I like this corner. I think this one's cute. I might come back to it every now and then until I get my main setup fixed, at least. All right, goodbye for real.